All right, so for anyone who's tuning in, welcome to the first roundtable discussion on the MPGR, formerly known as the Melee on Me rankings, formerly known as the SSBM rank. My name is Suar. We of course have our co-host, the lovely Practical Tass. And Tass, you want to key everyone off? That would be so beyond my skill set at this current moment. I have to apologize, and I have to take us off Slap City first. He is the doodled Lisa, by the way, in case anyone forgets that. Yeah. Awesome. So pretty good well-rounded round table. Sorry, that really slipped off on me. But yeah, we're here and we're happy to present, kind of like our thoughts and overall, trajectory that the rest of these rankings are headed. We're gonna start with pretty much our general sense of the impressions we got from the reveal, as well as snubs and possible predictions for 31 through 40. But other than that, how did everyone feel about the general shift from, Melee on Me to now PGstats is involved? Like who was at first like miffed by that, or who was excited by that? Anybody in particularly feel strongly about that? Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Sorry to disappoint. Oh, that is very awkward. How is it that they can only hear me? Um, shoot. Can everybody, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Does something show up on desktop
And
audio?
everybody should be able to now. I had it on the wrong output. Chat, please confirm that you can hear the beautiful Zane, who just said something none of you can hear.
Hello, hello. This is Zane speaking right now. Can you
Hello, this
hear
is
me?
Practical Tass.
Streaming is a blow up. Anyways,
Oh god.
welcome to everybody who has
Still
joined.
literally can't hear anyone else, Swar.
What'd you say?
They say we still literally can't hear anyone else.
How? Okay, Algebra, do a mic test.
Hello. No, it works now. It works now.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay,
good.
we're
It's
good.
good. It's good.
Good.
Okay.
So everyone who's
Okay.
joining us
Sweet.
amid now 3, maybe 5 technical difficulties, this is the Panda Global Roundtable for the MPGR, formerly known as Melee on Me, SSBM rank. Practical tasks introduced earlier, Algebra, Ovenn, Calvin, and Zane, who are on the bottom from left to right. We had just posed the first question, considering tonight's agenda, looking over the overall impressions and reactions to the reveal, the 41 through 50, speculation, snubs, and then 31 through 40 predictions. Zane was just recounting something that he can tell us all a little bit more about again, but go ahead, Zane.
What I was saying is basically I was really happy when it got announced that PG was sort of taking over and partnering with TAFO to do stuff. The partnering with TAFO and keeping everything pretty close to the old format makes me really happy, because I've always liked that it's been a community effort of writers and stuff, and it's been a tiny little community in a way that I started writing. But what also made me happy is that I think that having it more produced in installments, even if it's still 50 in the summer and 100 later on, having it be more codified, that like, I don't know. To me, it always felt like the summer rankings mattered less, even though they absolutely shouldn't have. And having it be more based on semesterly periods, I think, is more accurate to how we think about Melee, which is with a huge recency bias in general.
Right,
Yeah,
that's fair.
And to quickly make a parallel to Smash 4, we do biannual. So having a new top 50 every 6 months, people never hold on to those old rankings from, like, let's say you were 30th in January. In May, if you're 45th, no one's holding on to the old ranking. But I've heard, at least from TAS and some others, that some people hold on to their top 100 ranking over their summer ranking. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you didn't make the top 50 of the summer, then your last point of data is basically your previous year ranking. So you just stick with that the whole year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any other thoughts about... Oh, sorry, go on.
And I don't think that's going to change unless for some reason we decide that the Melee rankings are going to just be the last 6 months of the year. But I don't think that that's what our plan was. I guess it could change, but that was not really something on our radar at all, to be honest.
Yeah, so far just trying to have the transition / collaboration be as close to what has happened before. We weren't gonna like pop in, use the algorithm or like try to do things differently. So the balloting system and everything else is pretty much the same. Any other thoughts to like the whole reveal in terms of like the new branding? It's on Red Bull again. I mean, that's hype, right? People take that for granted.
Yeah, I agree with Zane that it feels like kind of more official than past year's summer ranks. And I do like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an optics thing more. Even if the rankings are happening almost exactly the same, it's the optics of this ranking feeling more like an official ranking. Which, if you looked at people's top 100 ranks for 2017, there were people who it just didn't tell the correct story of how you should be ranking them for the year as a whole, and that's because we don't actually rank players by years as a whole. When we talk about them, we rank them by the past 2 months usually.
Yeah, that's always been like a struggle with the rank. I think like people have different ideas of like what the ranking should be, and that maybe that's like part of why like the panel system is good in its own way, because it kind of sort of balances out opinions across like of how people evaluate results, and I've always liked that part of it. And I like that this like new ranking stayed true to that. That was actually something I thought was really important. Because like the way you evaluate and rank Melee players at any given moment is like not that it's not objective, but like people evaluate different pieces of data in different ways. Like what's important to one person is not necessarily the most important thing to someone else. And you can even hear that. I'm sure if we all talked about like how we did our ballots, like the discrepancies between like how I make a call versus how Algebra makes a call on like looking over data would be quite different.
So you're talking about like someone valuing peaks over consistency, or like upsetting a god, or things like that. Like some people care about one of those three components more than the other, and it varies person to person.
Yeah, totally. Like I can think just off the top of my head last year, like a lot of people heavily valued like the Lovage win over Leffen. Like people, like some people think that's a big deal, and then some people don't. Like I don't really look at that as a reflection of, like I obviously like Lovage can play very well, but personally I value consistency over anything else. And I think like when I look at a player and I see a lot of like low level losses, even if they have really high level wins, I'm more inclined to rank someone who has a very high level of consistency. Maybe doesn't have top 10 wins, but also doesn't have like losses below top 50. I'll rank that person higher because they're more likely to perform on any given day. But then other people evaluate those type of situations differently.
Okay.
And like the new system, like the way we transitioned into this, like I think we like kind of kept that system and intact, and I actually like that a lot.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Ovenn, Algebra, that side of the stream layout?
Yeah, I think it's,
oh,
go ahead.
I think it's pretty good that we're moving to a bigger, like number of people working on this.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
Because like before, Tafo was doing so much of the work, and like this year he's getting married and obviously busy. So I think like having more people to help out is definitely way better.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Algebra, yeah.
one thing that I think went pretty well with this summer ranking is I think our data collection is getting better and better. Special shout outs to Ovenn, Weed, Tafo for maintaining these like data sheets or like head-to-heads. I think the quality of our data has gotten a lot better, and that's helping the panelists make more informed decisions too.
Shout outs to Smash GG some of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the time.
Definitely not the times when they make temp accounts for random people and like IBDW has 4 different Smash GG accounts. Definitely not shoutouts on those points, but like definitely shoutouts when the alternative is like he has a different challenge, username in every single one of his tournaments because somebody like signing up with garbage accounts every time.
Yeah, definitely no shoutouts to people who enter as different tags every tournament.
Yeah, I mean they don't realize
but it designates their secondaries.
Yeah.
So
until they win with a secondary, then it counts.
So jokes aside, like the transition seems to have gone, pretty well. I mean, no tragedies today. Everything went up on time. Things looked great. The pictures looked great. But is there anything that you all would like to see, like, not next summer, but like next top 100 this January, like 2019? More eyes are on Smash again. Smash Ultimate has come out. Everybody has a Switch. People are looking into Smash. What's Smash? Melee? What's Melee? People start learning about all these other communities that have been existing. Like, what do you want to see by then in terms of rankings or, how the workflow goes or even just like the type of exposure you want to see? Like, what's something you'd want to happen by then?
I always thought something that would be interesting, and there would be debate around it in itself. But the rankings always come across as like so defined in terms of placements, and I always thought it'd be interesting if we sort of lean towards tiers a bit more, like acknowledging the fact that like players and groups on the rank are very similar in skill, and the person who's 95th isn't definitively better than the person who's 96th. And with that, I always thought something that would be interesting I think that system would allow you to acknowledge or rank in some capacity players that don't necessarily have the same amount of like presence as some others do. Some players are just isolated or don't have the money to attend as many large majors, but are very, very good and don't see a lot of like press or like just aren't well known, even though they're incredible at the game. Because I think ultimately like the top 100, other than like being something like very interesting and like cool that we all like to look at, it's kind of a breakout thing. Like as soon as your name is on that list, a lot of people like acknowledge who you are and you like exist as a top player all of a sudden. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of players who fit the bill in terms of skill and are active within their local scene, but because they don't have the resources to compete at the correct events, then they don't get acknowledgement from the rest of the scene and then see fewer opportunities because of it. Because I think like most TOs aren't digging deep enough when it comes to like finding talent to like, guest star at their event. And I think like a tiered system might allow those people to like see the light of day, and it would give opportunities to like rising players, that I think would be really key for the game's health in the future. Like making sure there's opportunities for new up and comers, especially as we go into this new like Smash Ultimate era. And I think we'll inevitably see some wave of new people enter the game. And I'd like to make sure that that wave is as big as possible and as many of those new people stick around for a long period of time. Like we all have. Like I think most of us got involved, post 2013.
No, I've been around since 07, 08, under various handles.
I've been around.
Under various handles.
So yeah, talking about equity over excellence pretty much at that point, like not making the list so exclusive, but kind of like broadening qualifications for it.
In a way, I would like to like not lower the like stakes and like value of getting on it in the first place, but finding maybe a balance between the two.
Okay.
I think
that's fair.
Sorry, Tass, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to point out, like, if you look at the numbers themselves, because we have the ratings public,
that's true.
Calculated numbers, you can look at like 41 versus 42 is like a 1.4 point difference, and then a little tiny baby sneak preview, 41 versus 40 is like a 0.8 point difference. And so it's not like just because we have that sort of defined every 10, that doesn't necessarily mean that the players across those gaps are, really strictly separate.
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
Of course, but it's an optics thing of when people remember something, they're not going to remember the point differences between people.
Exactly.
Unless it's one of those things where like last year Hungrybox had pure like actually 100 points because everyone was like, yeah, he's the best player, obviously. I think Aiden made a good point though, where if we talk about what the purpose of the rankings are, it's actually been laid out for us pretty clearly as to what the purpose is in terms of stuff with the Leffen case, with his visa and everything, and that the rankings are one of the pieces of infrastructure necessary for other people to view us as a legitimate community. And that extends to sponsors and stuff too, like non-endemic sponsors. Obviously, when Aiden's looking to sponsor someone, he knows everything already, but we want other sponsors too, other than just EGTV. So I want to see more stuff like actually what we're doing right now, like content around it, more visible content that actually can get into the granular specifics of those tiers of players and rankings and all that sort of stuff. And I think that that's also why Panda Global is a really good home for it, because Panda Global's done a really good job of making itself a team that is also a community organized spot, much like MIOM used to be before it cut down on its organizations a lot. And especially with the level of video content that Panda Global can put out, like they do for, like you guys do for PGR, I think that that's a big way that we can improve visibility, and that's really what the point of the rankings is. Like, it's cool to see your name on the rankings, and it's cool to debate everything, but at the end of the day, it's so that people have stuff to show to sponsors.
Yep, definitely that structure. It also changes commentary and the culture around competition. That's a that's a set win on a blank player, number 5, number 6, etc. So definitely adds to the whole mix.
Building content around it, like Zane said, would be really cool. I've been watching a lot of history of videos from Score Esports lately that they do about CS:GO players, because I'm getting really into CS:GO in the past few months, and watching those videos, they're really well done. It gives me a good background on like who that player has been like for their whole career, like what they're doing now, and like seeing similar spots on players in the community, and not just like the people who have received a ton of press already. Like, how many fucking Armada videos have we like seen? Like I don't get me wrong, I love Armada, but I want to watch. Give me like a 20-minute documentary about LOD. Like, where's the LOD documentary?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously.
Rishi, if you're out there, this was John LOD.
Yeah, it's great. It's great press, but like you said, like other people too, like it legitimizes them and humanizes them most of all too. Like it's not just the Peach player from New England. It's like you get to learn more about them, or you know, et cetera, et cetera. Any other things that you have on your wish list as a whole for next year before we jump into 41 through 50? Anybody at all?
Yeah.
I'd say that
Go ahead.
a little bit more
Go ahead.
like foreknotice for
Yeah, this is kind of
for the
rushed.
ranking. This was like a little bit sudden, but I think it worked out pretty well in the end.
This roundtable itself or the rankings? Or
The
both?
rankings.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah, that was we did it though, and we're still doing it.
Algebra, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, what I was going to say was kind of similar. It's that I think not even just this summer where we had kind of the turnover problem, but even in past years, I don't think there's a lot of time for people to think about their rankings,
Yeah.
of like the content to get created, etc.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It might be nice to even like decide on volunteers kind of well ahead of time and like maybe pre-prepare in certain ways.
Yeah.
Like especially in the past, there were a number of panelists who clearly didn't look at the data, which is a little questionable. So it'd be nice to have at least most of the panelists kind of decided beforehand and like make sure that they're keeping up with what's happening in the scene and looking at the data that's happening, keeping up with the results like ahead of time, so that once the time comes to actually make the list, it's not this huge ordeal where you have to suddenly realize, oh, this player beat that player like 4 months ago, and I just had no idea, and this totally changes how I see it.
Yeah.
How I see this player's performance.
Well,
right?
It's a really interesting culture thing. Suar, you can speak to this, and I mean, PTAS, you can too, but if you think about how the Smash 4 community views rankings versus how the Melee community views rankings, it is so vastly different. Every time a player drops out from a tournament and it goes from an S+ tier to an S tier or whatever, people are in an uproar on Twitter about it in Smash 4 because they're thinking about it the entire time.
Yeah, that's true.
And that loops back to what I was saying of like, I don't know how much people were even anticipating the summer ranking as like a thing that was going to happen, like it subconsciously. But Smash 4 people are constantly thinking about their next ranking.
The race for #1 in the PGR.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
who's going to make top 50. It's you've got a top 50 win now, a top 10 win now.
Yeah.
He's going to be 6th at least, at worst. Therefore, you have a top 6 win.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and to kind of close out like this section so we can move on to the actual list, like the main reason that the PGR was decided based on an algorithm which like moves more towards like the empirical side as opposed to the ballot side, which I think there's value in a panel, is the fact that like we, as much as it's awful to say, we're just like too disorganized / immature to handle that sort of thought to the degree that Melee does, which Melee also has its problems, but like people are like, okay, so listen, there was a day-to-day player, okay, King Day-to-Day, which is unanimously like bottom 10 in Smash 4 and a cast of like 50 plus characters. Bottom 10 beat the arguably #1 player in the world right now about 3 weeks ago at a SoCal tournament. Did it at an S tier. Did it at Ace from Japan, so that adds a bunch of internet points as well. What are people saying now that the release is happening? Where's Zaki? Where's Zaki? That's his name. And this person, absent all season, had some like, B and C tiers in Japan, beat some good, players over there, but like nothing like, what they did over here. But like here recency bias is like times 40. For Smash 4 players, like, it unfortunately, like, whatever's shiniest, they go for. Anti beat Larry Lur in Mexico this past weekend. We're in the interim of the rankings being released. So, of course, like, people are expecting Anti to be higher as things go on. But, like, again, that's something that, like, you have to deal with a release. Like, I don't know which big tournament is happening this weekend for Melee, but like that might skew people's perspective as the rankings are coming out, or work out because whoever just got listed ends up top 16ing, top 32ing, and then everything's, well with the world. So differences in methodology.
It seems really tough in Smash 4 too, just because upsets seem so much more prevalent. Just because like the nature of the game and the stock count and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that seems like that seems like it would be very difficult to navigate from like a panel perspective, and like and also I think what helped like the panel or what helped like the algorithm work too was like, especially last year, was like all the 2GG events where
Massive amounts of sets.
Yeah, I thought, you know, that one of the most incredible things that Champ did was he was able to really utilize like, well, I swear I'm not trying to plug, but he was able to like really utilize like the shop functionality on Smash GG, and then like made a bunch of revenue to bring out a bunch of like guests that people wanted to see, and then as a result, every 2GG event was just this plethora of data, and then you had that every month, and then in addition to like Frostbite and all these other incredible Smash 4 events. So like the algorithm,
all of which were on Smash GG, right?
Indeed. No. Yeah. I think that's like so cool. Like that's one of the things I wish like Melee could do in a way. Like if we had that sort of presence, like that if we had like backing behind like a series of events where the majority of attendees were able to be flown out every time, then I think I'd lean more in favor of something like an algorithm. And it like there's bonuses to like both sides, right? And it's interesting to see the differences between the community and like how they affect like how people view the ranking and like what system is used. Like, and something I really, really admire about the Smash 4 scene and the PGR is like how embedded the PGR is into the discussion of the game. Like it's so cool to see. It's like it's always brought up. Like it's such an important thing.
It really hit me when people were like, "All right, so PGR Ultimate, what are we doing? Like, who's gonna be on it?" Like it was just assumed.
Yeah.
So that was that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one last thing, Task, because we gotta get started.
Yeah, I know. We're taking our time here, but the interesting thing to me is because we do have like the X Factor list, which is just like however many panelists for Smash 4, and it's very, very interesting to see how the panelists work versus what the algorithm spits out, because like I can look at the two lists side by side and I can look at the panel and go, okay, so these guys are clearly basing their results on one or two. They're like absolutely overvaluing certain events, like objectively, and putting players like absolutely where they're not supposed to be. But on the Melee side of things, it's like there's sort of a more of a variety. So you'll have some people who do that, but then you'll have other people who do it in the complete opposite direction, and it all kind of balances out into something like really, balanced, I guess. Whereas on the Smash 4 side, it's like everybody seems to be kind of on the same page. So like you'll have people on the X Factor list that are way higher than where they should be, just purely on optics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people also have a really short memory in the Smash 4 community. Like January was 6 months ago, and tournaments that happened then, like Genesis, people don't remember that MBD got top 8 there. And like since the rest of the season he kind of laid low, like people just forget and just super devalue everything he does since then, and so it's really tough. But yeah, thanks for all the impressions.
To the list.
What you want. To the list now, switching the overlay here. We will talk about our thoughts on the 41 through 50, which I'll leave obviously mostly to you guys. Over Triforce all the way down to Kalamazoo. Any surprises, any thoughts, anyone you want to shout out in particular?
Okay. I mean, I guess I'll start just pointing out the fact that we had 2 European players in there. I personally, I thought that it was going to be about that level. And we actually added both Professor Pro and Meds to the ballot late because we, on the first pass, we didn't actually think that they had enough quantity of results. But when we looked at it again, their quality of what they had gone to, we felt that it warranted their inclusion, and it turns out both of them end up on the list.
Okay. Europe, obviously, for Smash, well, not obviously, but like drawing a parallel like Smash 4, like not too much presence, but luckily in Melee there's a ton of crossover, a little bit, kind of.
Yeah. A little.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of like.
people... Oh, sorry, Ovenn.
it's kind of like the opposite in Smash 4 with like Japan. So
Okay, okay, got it. Perfect.
so like with Japan and Smash 4, there's like more Japanese players on the ranking, and in Melee there's more European players. It's just
Got it.
just another
Good parallel.
a different region.
I want to give a shout out to Toussaint because I think it was pretty obvious to a lot of people seeing Toussaint place as number 100 on the most recent on 2017 that he was going to be one of the people from those low rankings who was going to rocket way up. The way Toussaint was performing at the end of the year was easily on par with the ranking that he's basically gotten now. The only reason that he wasn't that high ranked is because the yearly ranking doesn't take into account, is because it takes into account the whole year where he had been performing closer to, because he really did have a huge breakout last year, so quickly, in a region full of people who had huge breakouts like IBDW and Darktooth. But he absolutely is one of the people who did it the most, and so it's really expected to see him in this place, but it's like, it's good to see that he's continuing on the trend we all thought he would.
Okay.
It's interesting. I definitely think that Toussaint is like a rising player and is really good. But he was one of the people here that I was surprised, maybe not surprised, but who I didn't personally think was top 50, due to the quantity of losses he has to like lower level players.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has like really high highs, and same goes for Michael. I actually didn't have Michael in my top 50 either, for very similar reasons. Because I think Michael has like very high profile peaks, but then when you dig into like the amount of people he's lost to, I don't think the performances like quite look as good. And I would both put them in the like 50 to 70 range if I was like making the ranking myself. And so they were like two of the people who I thought were going to be like snubbed, like barely snubbed, but were on the list nonetheless. And I mean, shout outs to them. Obviously, both of them are like on the come up. I think Michael, like going from unranked to all the way on this top 50, and then Toussaint, like Zane said, going from number 100. And I personally, like knowing him, like how motivated he is and like how bad he wants to reach that top level. I'm not shocked to like see him here. But I was surprised to see them like crack this top 50.
So really quick question on Toussaint, because Smash 4 doesn't really have this yet, but the whole summit culture, right? How do you guys think that impacted, whether positively or negatively, Toussaint's trajectory from then until now? Like, do you think before then people were sleeping on him, and then he got a bunch of flack because he made it into summit over someone who deserved it? Or do you think that that was just what he needed to just like jettison into, where he is right now?
I think it definitely would affect him positively, right? It puts him a little more in the limelight, puts a little more visibility on him. I think similarly, like even though he didn't perform the best at Summit, I wouldn't be shocked if like Ginger was a bit higher than I put him as well. Because if you dig through like Ginger's data, he has a lot of like low level losses that I find like pretty shaky. And like he's obviously top 50. I think Ginger's clearly top 50 right now. But similarly, I think an event like Summit just puts the name on like the top of people's minds. Although it could swing the other way for someone like Ginger who doesn't necessarily perform at the event, and then people are like, "Oh, this guy's shit." I
think it goes opposite ways for the two of them. Actually, I think that Summit's probably purely good for Toussaint because no one quote unquote knew who he was beforehand.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Ginger has been on everybody's mind since he beat Drugged Foxy like almost 2 years ago. Like people have known who he is at least since then. And for Toussaint, it's way slower than that. So for Ginger, it was, oh, this guy's going to come. And we all know Ginger's a smart, technical Falco. He's innovating the character in ways that we wanted to see. And then for him to perform that to that level is, I think, people really wanted to see him do better. For Toussaint, it's like, he took a game off HBox. Oh my god, he's so good.
It's almost easier to perform when no one has expectations on you, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. That's like definitely an interesting thought. I definitely think it like definitely swings that way as well. Because Ginger's had much more of a presence than like Toussaint has for the past couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair. Algebra, Ovenn, any other surprises for 41 through 50, or someone you really want to shout out or congratulate? publicly?
I think going into this, when I was looking at all the people, I didn't think Kalamazoo was going to make my top 50, but like when I actually looked at like what he had done besides Genesis, he had really like stepped it up after Genesis and performed pretty well and took like names that I didn't know he'd taken. So
that's pretty interesting because I thought like I think like Keizu I think Keizu like might be a little low.
Yeah,
this is like
I actually agree.
This is kind of like a hard like a read on like how things are evaluated, I guess. Like I said, people have different values when they like try to evaluate a player's performance. But Keizu being like clearly third in NorCal like means a lot to me, and like the consistency of his like results, his performances against other people in like the 20 to 40 range. He doesn't have like the best losses either. So like I don't think he's like top 30, but I thought he would be like a little higher than he ended up being placed.
Okay. Algebra, any other people you'd like to recognize?
Yeah, I also wanted to shout out Keizu. He definitely bounced back from his double puff elimination at Genesis. And he's really been grinding really hard. I know, because I'm in NorCal, so I know he's been playing a lot with good players. He hasn't really gone to locals, I guess, but he's definitely playing like a lot and practicing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to kind of reach his old peak back when he was, top 3 or 4 Peach player. Another person who I'm surprised you guys didn't mention, who made a similar jump as Michael and Toussaint, is Moki.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Canadian boy.
That's Moki fucking Doki, dude. Of course.
Of course, like obviously. I mean, he also jumped like 50 spots, right? That's like
he was top 10 on my ballot. I couldn't believe it.
Damn.
How do you guys feel about Moki being that high?
Shout out to Canada, boys.
I actually had him on my ballot at exactly 46, so I'm very happy.
Oh wow. Okay.
I had him in the 40 to 50 range as well. Yeah, he doesn't have that many results, but he definitely had a good Genesis and a good Canadian tournaments. I think one of the things that actually impressed me was that he does very well against Ryan Ford, who I placed very highly on my ballot.
Yeah.
Ryan Ford is, definitely a wily veteran and has been doing very well this year. So, yeah, Moki is definitely impressive.
Cool.
It's really funny though to talk about Moki's Genesis, because at the time it was incredibly impressive to beat Chudat. And if the exact same tournament happened right now, Moki would have had the most whatever. Like, he beat Cactus too, so I guess that's something. But it would have been like a thoroughly like whatever Genesis for him.
Beat 2 old men who don't really play anymore,
and then lose to an old man in Hugo.
Oh.
and lose to Ty, who I think his like stock has gone down significantly.
Yeesh.
Since then.
It might have, although at Genesis, Ty had a really good Genesis.
No, exactly. That's why Genesis was amazing, and then since then, I think his stock has gone down.
Yeah.
PTAS, were you surprised by anybody?
Yes. I was surprised by a lot of people. Honestly, I was kind of surprised more by not the people who made top 50, but the people who just barely didn't.
Oh.
But unfortunately, we can't reveal that yet.
Well, that's actually a great segue into our next topic, because what we have now is 41 through 50 snubs, possibly. Anyone that you think...
41 through 50 snubs slash 30 or 40 and up, basically.
It'll get there.
Yeah.
Who, in your opinion, definitely has no chance of making 31 through 50, thus they got snubbed since they're not in 41 through 50? Anyone in particular? I see the chat saying Chudat, actually,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Spark. No, anyone who's saying Chudat,
You have too much faith.
I don't know what he's had
Just to
one good
sort of
tournament.
frame the discussion, just to sort of frame this a little bit better. Somebody on Reddit put out a list of who he thinks are the guaranteed 33 players and then pick 7, who are also going to be in the top 40.
Right.
And so of his guarantees, like the lesser known names are like Laud, Absent Page, Cyrox, Army, IBDW, Smuckers, Space Roll, and then like the more expected names. And then of his pick 7, he has...
Here, wait, I'm going to link this comment in the Discord so everyone can look at it right now.
You guys
Yeah.
have so much better
Thought that
tags
earlier.
than we do.
I remember.
so the pick 7 are Kobo, Rishi, Ginger, Bladewise, Stango, Bananas, Ty, Junebug, Chew, Amsa, Dreffin, Diz, Rocky, Spark, Jerry, Kamaster, and Mike Hayes.
Yeah.
So if you're picking 7 of those, and I guess we should put the link to it in the chat, so chat knows and can follow along as well.
I think Zane just
Who are you thinking? In and out, or who are you thinking snubs for sure?
Of the people here, I think definitely. Well, Jerry's list. Jerry's not even on the ballot, was he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's
Also, he switched characters, so
He switched characters, and he lost in round 2 like multiple times. So
shambles.
Oh.
Excellent.
switching characters doesn't give you excuse for that once you've committed to that character.
Yeah.
but he beat
I
one
think-
last week.
I think of the people listed, I think like Kamaster, Rocky, Spark. Rocky, unfortunately, I thought Rocky was going to be top 50 for sure, but
I agree.
Kamaster, Rocky, Spark, DizKid, probably Ty and Chew all didn't make it.
Yep.
I doubt Druffin is top 40.
Oh, sorry, Dreffin as well. Yeah, Dreffin as well.
The chat is.
Oh, so these are players that were like, if they were making it, they were in 41 through 50. Yeah, Jerry wasn't on the ballot either.
And I don't think Stango made it either.
Oh yeah,
Probably
no.
not.
I don't think there's any chance. I think it's pretty easy to suss out who the 7 are, especially based on how people play. I would say it's Colbull, Rishi, Ginger, Bladewise, Bananas, Mike Hayes, and
Junebug.
Junebug, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how Bladewise just got into top 40 again? How the fuck did that happen?
He's always top 40. It's just it's just who he is.
I don't know.
Hasn't he been top 40 literally every single
Yes,
ranking?
every
Yeah,
single time.
he has.
How? I'm Washington. I love Teddy. I want to be biased for Teddy. Teddy didn't make my top 50. How the fuck was Teddy top 40 this time?
He's actually.
Who
How do we know? The list hasn't been revealed yet.
He's
Yeah.
actually
Like,
well,
how do you know
he's
he's in
definitely
over? I guess the closest would be the names that we haven't talked about yet would be Chu, Amsa, and Ty.
Yeah.
Are we sure that he had a better year than all 3 of those people?
Better than
Awesome.
Chu and Ty.
Amsa's the biggest one for me, actually. Better
Yeah,
than
I
Chu
don't
and
know
Ty for
Amsa.
sure. Amsa has consistently performed exactly the same at every US tournament he goes to. And then he's like just in the conversation. He's like a top 5 player who beats all the other top 5 players who aren't Leffen and Armada in EU. And then he loses to them
fair.
too.
So
So it's like,
this is how I see it. I think Amsa definitely is in the top 50. I'm because if he's not, I think it's actually a huge
Right.
he's clearly robbed. And this is why. He doesn't have a lot of US results, right? But this is kind of the way I see the way you have to evaluate EU players. And this is something I actually don't like about Over being 50th either. I think Over is like a little low, but because like Over's always been like underrated in my opinion because Over has always been better than Android. Always. But people just ignore that because Android comes to the States and picks up wins and Over doesn't have the money to do that. But it's been clear from EU results that Over is a better player. And the same goes for Amsa, where his consistent
I agree.
his consistent performances in Europe and he barely attends US majors. Amsa is clearly the 4th or 5th best player in Europe right now. And he's definitely better. He's definitely a better player than Android, Over, and Prof. Like there's no question of it.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
has to be top 40. Otherwise people just like aren't, I don't know what people are doing.
For me, I abstained on AMSA and Prof actually because they didn't have enough US results. So I don't know. I just didn't give them a score.
Dude, Amsa's one North American result that like he did pretty well at too is Gommel, where what he did is he beat Tranimal and then he got to beat Hybrid to just get like almost guaranteed 17th at that point.
Yeah, hilarious. I like his brackets are always so dumb. I feel like I don't know what happens. Like this is what happens to Amsa, dude. He's the end. His good performances, he's the end of some upset. And then his bad performances are he loses to Ice Climber. Like that's actually, I think Amsa's beaten like one like really good Ices in like the past 3 or 4 years, maybe longer than that. Like he beat Diz at Evo 2 years ago, and like he just always loses to Ices, dude. I've watched so many Amsa Ices sets. It's so bad to watch.
Hold on. I'm just gonna no. Actually, no, man. You first, and then I'll go after this.
I literally just love how passionate you are guaranteed to get Aiden if you talk about anyone who's not a US player. Any non-North American player, Aiden is gonna pop.
I'm such a shill, because everybody knows. Like, who we're gonna talk about in the US that's exciting? Rocky. We could talk about Rocky and how the fuck he didn't make top 50. You're telling me the 4th best player in NorCal right now, who plays Falco like fucking that, isn't top 50?
So you think Rocky's a snub then? You think that if he was making it, if he was making it, he's 41 through 50?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On a semi-related note, just to sort of kind of derail the discussion, I just want to point out one thing that you guys might be overlooking, which is the potential for the legacy bias argument in favor of Chu. And I'm going to demonstrate that with a single data point. And that single data point is the highest placing that somebody put Chu on their ballot.
Oh.
And that single data point is one panelist, at least one panelist, placed Chu that within their top 20.
Dude, what the fuck? What the fuck? Tell us who it is. Tell us who it is.
This person.
I
think they don't receive a ballot again.
I can't reveal my source. I can't reveal the identities of the victims. But at least one panelist put you at top 20.
This is exactly why I could never be put in charge of this. Accept that what the hell is that person thinking?
Well, your ballot, to be honest, from what I understand, at least canceled that out. So I mean, that's what happens. Before I move on to 31 through 40 predictions, Ovenn, did you have any other snubs that you wanted to bring up?
Looking at I don't really know. I think I had a pretty similar 40 to 50 than as what we got. So I don't really have anybody I think was like not supposed to make it on.
Okay.
Or was supposed to make it on.
I think if you really value like peaks, there's an argument for like Shiz being a snub, but it's pretty inconsistent.
I just disagree out of hand. There's not an argument like at all.
He did well at like Smash and Splash, and then
Shiz's best win is Swedish, and
IBDW
and IBDW. He has 2 wins that were even potentially top 50.
What? KJH too, right? Didn't he be?
When did he play KJH?
At Smash and Splash, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, he was KJH. You're right. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so
I also didn't think Meds was gonna make it, but that could
Meds was a late addition.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised.
That one was weird to me too, especially because looking at his previous rank. So his previous rank was what, 55 or something,
yeah,
right?
He went up.
Which I don't know, because I actually, full disclosure, I didn't do a ballot because I just don't have time to.
That's all right. That's all right.
But like I don't know. I don't understand what like precipitated that.
I don't know.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's probably other people going down more than him going up.
Yeah, not necessarily he went up, but more than like a bunch of people that were really high up are gone. And so he didn't necessarily really go up, it's just he just sort of precipitated up. Yeah.
I think also his axe win probably bumped him up
that
a
too.
little bit.
Oh, that I did forget about that. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so a bunch of snubs. I guess we'll probably feel a little stronger on Wednesday when definitively the list gets even smaller and smaller.
Right.
But on that note for Wednesday, 31 through 40 predictions. Who are your top 3, top 2, who are definitely gonna make it in that range?
We're definitely gonna.
What,
I would say.
What do you mean?
Like, who is
Like,
definitely no better
Than
than
31.
31st, and definitely no
Okay.
worse than 40.
Rishi. Rishi's like the absolute. I think Rishi's the safest absolute bet for that. Like IBDW too. Like those are the two that immediately come to mind as a tri-state player.
I think Ginger, Blade-Wise Bananas will be in that range. Probably Cobalt. I'm just looking at this list. Junebug, Mike. Like I think everyone of the pick 7 that you think will be in there is definitely not top 30.
Yeah.
Probably
Interesting
Face Roll
prediction.
and Mike.
Face Roll is the only one who has even a shot at an argument for top 30, but I don't think he does.
I think Smuckers might actually.
Oh, was Smuckers in that list?
No, he's on the
Smuckers on the
first
guaranteed.
33.
Oh yeah. I think I meant of the pick 7 list.
Yeah.
We do have a question in chat. This is always relative. Do you think Hugo is going to be lower or higher than what he ranked himself?
What did Hugo rank himself?
What
I
do you
don't
rank
need to know.
himself?
He's gonna be sorry. I don't need to know. He's gonna be lower.
Yeah, well,
I think he'll
Yeah,
be like
well-
1 or 2 spots lower than what he ranked himself.
What do you? That's a interesting. What do you guys think Hugs should be ranked? I'm curious.
I had him at 16th, I think.
I had him at 17th.
Oh wow. Okay.
I had him a bit low. That's actually kind of sad, but
Is 16? Wait, is 17th low?
I don't know. Some people had him really, really low, but
Yeah, I just
It's
had him,
low-
I had him at 19.
it's low compared to what he thinks of himself, which I think is like good for being a player, like a top player.
Yeah.
But
Hugo.
what did he put himself at? Does anybody actually know what he put himself at?
I think he
Chat?
put himself 5th.
He put himself 14.
14?
14?
He put himself 14.
I'm gonna
Put someone in
I'm gonna
chat.
be real with you, Chief.
That's
14 is kind of
Hugo knows
kind of pushing
exactly. Hugo knows exactly how to get the best reaction out of people. If
Yeah,
he puts
sure.
himself 5th, it's like okay, Hugo's
Nah,
he's messing with us.
I want
Whatever.
Hugo to look me in the eye. I want Hugo to look me in the eye and tell me he's better than Duck, dude. I want him to look me in the eye, dude.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Hey, I mean, I don't know
To be
about
fair,
better than Duck.
Calvin,
Like, he
you're
had
wild.
probably better results than Duck this
he does have better results
Yeah.
than Duck this period.
He
this
does.
period.
Like
He totally
that's
does.
just like a
But
fact.
what does your heart say, David? What does your heart say?
My heart says that Hugo is the only Samus who tries to go for aerial interrupt platform follow-ups except for Plup. And Duck
Fair.
is incredibly
Not true.
smart.
But Hugo does go for a lot. I agree.
I think okay, that's true. Doug goes for them. He's an incredibly smart player, and I have talked to him a bunch, and he actually like all his shit about how he's smarter. He actually is. He's so smart. He really is.
Big
What-
brain.
He,
I love this story. This has happened at Shine last year, and Duck. I asked Duck in like in a bubble tea place. I was like, so what do you think about like how good Plup Samus is? And Duck said, I'm so much smarter than him. I know
Yeah.
so much more about Samus,
yeah,
but he's just better than me.
yeah. But Hugo is the one who goes for optimal punish game stuff, which is really funny, and he's been doing it for a really long time.
Right. Yeah, he's been doing that with like the up throw pivot back air.
I saw Dame look like
Yeah. I think Duck also goes for a lot of the like. Okay, I'm the admin of the Samus Discord.
I know. That's why I defer to your judgment on anything. I defer to
So
your judgment.
we have lots of opinions on what these guys try to do. I do think Hugs' punish game has gotten much better in the last year and a half.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's not like no. Duck also goes for pretty optimal punishes. I think Duck has been trying to like reaction tech chase with dash attack for a pretty long
That's
time.
That is really true.
Um,
I think it more just is visible for Hugo because it's off of stuff that one you don't expect from Hugo, and two
Yeah.
that Duck will do something simpler for a lot of the time. So it's off like up throw stuff where
Hugo's definitely optimized his throw follow-ups quite a bit in the last year or so.
That's what I'm talking about.
I really appreciate that. That's good.
Am I like the only one who thinks Duck has better results than Hugo? Like, I don't understand.
I do not think Duck has better results.
Look at these wins. Look at these losses. Hugs 1-1. Who the fuck is Noah?
Noah's
Noah's Mega Xmas, and he just got like 9th at run back.
Oh, that's Mega Xmas? Oh, he did get it. He beat Steven, dude. He beat back Goku. What was up with that?
Yeah.
Because he's really good.
You mad?
Mega Xmas.
That guy's good.
He hasn't gone to a regional like ever because he can't. So he just doesn't travel out of state.
Duck's worst loss is to someone who's like top 25.
I mean, yeah, Duck has been
I don't know.
extremely consistent this year in that he beats people worse than him and then loses to people better than him.
Poor Duck. That's how I see him as well.
That's huge.
Like, sorry, this is a little bit BM because I love both Hugs and Duck, but Hugs beat Duck at Genesis.
Mic drop.
Wait, it was in bracket, right?
It was in bracket. Hugs straight up outplayed. Like, Duck has had Hugo's number for a while, but in that set, Hugs like read Duck's mind.
No,
it was unbelievable.
That set is so amazing for any Hugo fan in the world. It's such a he plays like the best he's ever played in his life, honestly.
Yeah, I sat there with Violence, like watching the set, and we're like, how is he doing this?
And then he completely lost any intelligence he had and beat Amsa.
No,
I saw that.
I think Hugo actually played extremely intelligently against Amsa.
I'm just talking about the last few stocks, which were really.
That was post Dignitas, right?
Hugo was dealing with this guy who was aerial crouch cancel camping the top platform for 5 minutes. Okay, and Hugo beat it. That's like. Okay, and he doesn't play like a broken character like some top tier, right? He double jump to get the top platform, do some weak ass move to hit Yoshi, who would just counter hit her for free. Like, dude, that was really good by Hugo. I was so impressed, actually. That was the most impressed I've ever been by Hugo Gonzalez in my life.
IQ 3000. All right, so bringing it all back, everybody. Those are really great 31 through 40 predictions and a sidebar of Duck versus Hugo. But what do you feel about just ending it with like a couple questions? You cool with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right. While we're waiting for questions, I just want to point out one small thing that we've sort of changed this year, and that was in past years we actually had a sort of like we had to make a decision on how many outliers we would remove from each player's ballot. So like how like we in past we've done like get rid of the top or bottom one or top and bottom 1 or 2 or 3 depending on how many panelists total we have. In order to just kind of like get rid of the obviously, out of left field positions that some people took. But instead, this time around, what we decided to do was kind of like a weighted average, where if you're further away from the midpoint, your ballot is worth, or your score for that particular player is worth slightly less. So like that sort of top score for Chudat of whatever it was, top 20, once it gets filtered through and normalized and then squashed, it's no longer a top 20. It's like maybe top 35 or something like that. And that would imply, or sorry, it would be a top 35 if, say, Chudat is below top 50. If Chu's like 40th, then it's like more along the lines of like a top 30.
Yeah, I got it.
Low top 30s.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so it kind of everything just gets shifted towards the center, so the way out of left field positions get kind of squashed in. And the other benefit of that is we don't have to have that extra parameter of how many people are we cutting off at each point.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to mention that, because what it means is that those ridiculous votes for Chu are actually included in his vote, not just completely removed in the outlier
removal.
So I just wanted you guys to freak out a little bit more about that.
Awesome. Well, it definitely makes.
So do we have any chat questions?
I actually had one
Sorry,
pulled up right
sorry.
here. I can ask the first one if you want to ask the second. This one's about West Coast drama.
Ooh.
These are questions.
Well, these are just like chat
Yeah,
questions.
Swar, take them all. Take them all, Swar. Take them all.
We'll just end them. So again, thanks so much, Algebra, Ovenn, Calvin, Zane, for being here. So we'll just do a little bit of Q&A to close out this roundtable. This question coming from Saka Sumoto. What do you guys think about West Coast having less active players? Do you think people like Spark, Rocky have successfully replaced them? Do you think there's East Coast bias now? If that's trolling, then I'm wiser.
East Coast bias, boys.
I think he's like slightly serious.
I think he's slightly serious, and I think he has a point. I think even more than that.
Disappointed that West Coast bias is gone because it's not West Coasted on me anymore. I think that's all that it is.
Listen, save his Untitled ended West Coast bias when he made his Is West Balls Has West Balls Gotten Worse video. That's my hot take. Ended West Coast bias with that.
Sorry, Save, if you're in here.
No, I actually think that Sokka totally has a point. And the way that I know he has a point is that it still feels weird for me to think of Spark and Rocky as top 5, having come from NorCal and now living in New York, like full time. I know Spark and Rocky are amazing, and I still think of Spark as being on the level of Boulevard. Like, not actually,
Yeah.
but like in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that for a lot of people, West Coast, especially NorCal, is like NorCal is like the region where you're never going to see Spark winning every single local. No one tunes into Made streams, and for a while, like Made is the only real stream tournament too. So I think in terms of the new blood, it definitely applies. I think probably older school West Coast players probably might still get overrated, but I think it totally applies to new blood.
Okay, fair.
Interesting.
Any other answers?
Yeah.
Or second question? Did you want to say something, Ovenn?
I sort of agree with what Zane is saying. Like,
Or
I
Algebra?
think Tri-State and MDVA recently and like Florida have been very active. They have lots of tournaments, they have lots of exposure, and so their up-and-comers are probably going to be rated a little bit better than NorCal, where like there's honestly not that many stream locals, like Zane said, and a lot of the actually like old school good players in NorCal are just totally inactive. Like the good players who go to tournaments are like Rocky, Spark, Azel, who is probably going to be top 10 in NorCal, Dark Atma, NMW, like those kinds of guys. Basically, they're like lower half of top 100 kinds of players, and like the top like Pew Pew and Shroom just like never show up to anything. So it's hard for them to get a chance to score wins over the top players. However, in SoCal, there's their top players that go to stuff all the time. So.
Wow, how different from
Yeah, I think
Smash 4.
it's most prevalent in NorCal for sure. They like NorCal. I don't know. It's weird. Like NorCal seems like such a shadow of what it used to be in terms of like top talent in the region, like being very prominent. And I think the difference between NorCal and SoCal is that in terms of like relative weight in the overall scene, I still don't think that the newcomers in NorCal have really matched the legacy of the old players, even in terms of results. Whereas like in SoCal, I think they have to an extent, but SoCal also hasn't like fallen off as much.
That a lot of the new players in SoCal, I guess the only ones who have kind of made it so far are like Face Roll, Squid, and Army, I guess.
Right, but that's a different definition of new player than you apply to Spark and Rocky.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. They've been around, like they've been relevant longer than Spark and Rocky.
Squid has been playing for
That's true.
so
Squid
long. Do you guys know how long Squid has been playing Melee?
I don't know when Squid started, but Squid was like relevant like 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Squid's been playing. It's probably longer than this. I know Squid's been playing for at least like 8 years, dude. Like competitively.
I'm pretty sure he was definitely like pre-Doc era. Like,
he's not a new player like Spark and Rocky are.
Yeah.
That's
but Army and Face Roll are like Doc era players also. So
yeah.
Okay. I think just like with NorCal, it's like this weird. this weird gap where a lot of the top talent stopped like showing up.
Yeah.
And then SFAT also moved, so that's like a blow to the region. Diz is like inactive. I don't know if he like quit, but I've seen him at a few tournaments here and there. I've been talking
he's back now. He was doing music stuff for a really long time.
Oh, cool. So like, and
is he actually gonna attend stuff?
I think he's back and trying to attend stuff more now.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's exciting.
I think he is. I didn't talk to him super in detail about it, but it really was just that he had like a ton of music stuff going on.
Yeah. Ladindis was someone else who I thought was going to be like one of those, like he was like top 40, right? And I don't know, there was just like players that it felt like there was this kind of simultaneous exodus from of like players in NorCal, and then the gap between them and the up and comers isn't quite full yet, but they're like working on it. Like I think like Rocky, like I said, I think Rocky is probably probably my personal like biggest snub off this top 50, where I think like right now Rocky's definitely like probably like 4th in NorCal below Keizu and the obvious top 2. And like I said, I thought Keizu should have been higher as well. And I think there's a lot of like up and comers in NorCal who will be relevant, like given enough time. Like I think Umarth could be like really good.
Azul's
actually like filthy. Like it's just like these young people that haven't been playing that long that will like sort of take up that mantle in due time, I would expect.
I think a way to sum it up is if I look at SoCal in the past 3 years, I think that the overall level of play has stayed the same or gone up because you have people who are really, really dedicated to becoming really good, like Noah, Mega Christmas. If I look at NorCal in the past 2 years, my general sense is that even though Spark and Rocky are really good, the overall level of play and the pedigree of the top players has gone down by a lot.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
I think a big problem here is locals in NorCal. It's hard to find good venues.
Yeah.
It's hard to find venues that like. Basically, SoCal for a long time had SSS and Mayhem, and now they have like Nimbus and other stuff, like large locals where ranked players regularly attend. NorCal kind of has them, but along the way, sometime in 2015, 2016, like the top players kind of got disillusioned with going to locals. And then, so like when I first moved to NorCal in 2014, we had Bay Area monthlies, which were the big tournament. Like more than half of the PR would go, including like PPU, Shroom, Desfat, like every month, right? But the problem was we outgrew that venue, and then people decided, oh, that's not fun to go to this tournament anymore. So the tournament died. And sometime, maybe a year or two ago, NorCal top players descended into this top player Smash Fest thing that's sometimes tweeted out. So, like, I know PPU and Shroomed and Laudandus and Kalamazoo and a lot of these players actually play a lot of Melee. They just don't go to locals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's hurt NorCal quite a bit. There was some outrage about this maybe, I don't remember, 4 to 8 months ago, sometimes in that range, where our friend Ghidorah made an angry tweet about how top players just go to their secret Smash Fest and don't come to locals.
Yeah,
and he prompted PPU to go to one local, and then he just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I guess to sum it all up, to sum this whole discussion up, West Coast Tsunami is dead and West Coast has killed it.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
Totally.
I think SoCal is actually still doing fine in terms of their perception.
I actually just remembered a joke that I wanted to make, which is that I feel like NorCal is now the the region where good old school players go to die. Like
the open graveyard.
Zoo and Cactus and Fruit Loop. And credit to Kalamazoo for having done that and now turned it around.
Reviving himself,
All right, so
I guess we have Nintendo to Zamarth now, so.
One last question, PTAS?
Yeah, one more interesting question. If
I have to go. I'm really sorry. All right. I do have to go right now.
Okay, well, thank you, Zane, for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. We'll kill it right here after this one quick question.
Yeah, thanks, Zane.
If
Zane.
we did a top 100 right now, if we had done a top 100, which player would have made the biggest drop? I want like one word answer. If we had done a full 100, who would have the big, ignoring people who did not at all attend anything, who would drop the hardest from where they were at the end of 2017 to now?
Shoot at.
You.
Chu?
Probably just thinking about other, like, who else?
Yeah, they can only be Chew, right?
Yeah, I believe it.
No one else is going to drop like 40 or 50 spots.
Yeah, without like going
fall
off
in
the
that
list
far.
entirely.
Other than people who just like wouldn't be on the list, period, due to inactivity. Like,
I guess maybe Chew only dropped 30 spots. I don't know.
Fair.
but
We'll see.
yeah, I think Chu is like the obvious choice, and then there's a couple players that are probably inactive that were just like removed from the list altogether. But I don't know if you
Drug Fox, this kid, very
Yeah.
inactive. So.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, you know what? I got one more question. It's not from chat. It's from my head. I want you guys to tell me right off the cuff what spot Westballs is in. Aiden, go.
I think this isn't where I put him, but I think
Off the
he
cuff.
will be 15 to 20, like a fit.
No,
like
it's a
15,
single
16.
number. You're not allowed to give me a range.
16.
One number. 16. Algebra.
I had him at 15, but I think he'll be a little lower, so probably also like 16.
Oven.
I'm going to say 18 because that way it's the same rank as his 2017 rank, and he wouldn't have gotten better.
Oh my god.
Nice.
All right, that's it. That's the
All right,
best way we could possibly end this.
All right, well, thank you, chat, everybody, for joining. This has been the MPGR 2018 Summer Roundtable with myself, Suar, Practical Tasks, Algebra, Ovenn, Calvin, and Zane, who actually left us early. We'll be doing this again on Wednesday. If any of you want to come on again, you're welcome. But anybody else who wants to come on, tell a friend. Tass will be able to feature you. Any shout outs you guys want to give before we sign off for the night? Any?
I'm going to shout out the Panda Global Smash 4 rankings, which are starting to be revealed tomorrow. We're also doing these roundtables on the Smash 4 side, in case anybody in chat is interested in that. And I think that's it. I think we're good.
Okay.
I think for me, shout outs to Ambi Sinister, who fought the hardest to keep the panel ranking.
Let's go, Andy.
Shout outs to GG_Kupo. That's Kelly, and she's my coworker, and she's been working really hard lately. So
Let's go hard work.
Really.
Oven, anybody?
No.
All right.
I'm not
We're
gonna.
good.
Respect. All
Get
right.
out of
Shout
here.
out to Oven for making this sick spreadsheet.
All right. See you, everybody. We'll be back
All right,
Show us some
tomorrow.
more stats. Peace.
We'll be back tomorrow for
See ya.
Smash 4. Wednesday will be Melee. Thursday will be Smash 4 again, and Friday will conclude with Melee. You can check out the schedule on Twitter. You'll find us. PGstats, PGswar, Practical Tasks, Algebra, Oven, Calvin, Zane, everybody. Good night. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.